Hi everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel. So me and Kate are going to be reviewing the top 8 herding dogs in the world in my opinion today. So let's get into this video. So, like I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to be reviewing the top 8 dogs, 8 herding dogs in the world, in my opinion. So, before we get into this, let's talk a little bit about how we are judging these dogs. So, I'm going to be judging them on, one, how widely they're used, the instincts that they have in today's setting, and how useful I think they really are compared with other breeds. So a good example of this might be, because somebody might mention it in the comments, the Old English Sheepdog is not going to be in the top 8, and some people might wonder why this is. The Old English Sheepdog is a very historical herding dog breed. There are a lot of herding dogs which have Old English Sheepdog in their lineage, but there is very little working Old English Sheepdogs in the world today, because mostly it was taken over by the pet and the show dog trade, and they bred a lot of the working instincts out, and it's almost impossible to find an Old English Sheepdog which has good herding instincts in the world today. They're almost completely had all of the herding instinct bred out of them, therefore they're not going to be on this list. We're going to be talking about dogs which are currently used for herding in this day and age. So we're going to start off with number 8. So at number 8 is the Australian/American Shepherd. So these dogs do have good herding instinct if you get them from a working family. However, they are heavily used in the pet trade as well, so it is very hard to find ones with good working instinct, at least here in Scotland. These dogs look very similar to Border Collies. Their colours tend to be a little more stand out, which can probably why they're more heavily in the pet trade today. However, they just don't have, in my opinion, the intelligence that a lot of other herding breeds have. So that's why they're number 8 on this list. So now on to number 7, and we're going to be putting the Welsh Collie in at number 7. Or the Welsh Sheepdog. The Welsh Sheepdog is another great dog. It's a very intelligent dog, very useful, lots of herding instinct. However, again, just not as widely used as other herding breeds in today's world. The Welsh Sheepdog or Collie almost went extinct in the beginning half of the 20th century. Around 1940, there was only about 4 breeding pairs before the breed actually made a recovery. And they do quite well in the world today. However, it is difficult to find some good working line. So this next one kind of hurts me to put it this low. It's a dog I absolutely love, but in making this video, I couldn't put it any higher than this, and this is the Australian Cattle Dog. And the reason for this is these dogs are actually brilliant herding dogs. They're amazing herding dogs. They've got super personalities. Depending on what you're looking for in a dog, they have super energetic, they're fearless. Often put them in the category of the toddler of the herding world. They're just such happy, outgoing and fearless little dogs. However, if I look at this as from a standpoint as a shepherd in Scotland, these dogs, they nip a lot. They are mainly geared towards driving cattle and not sheep. So if I was to look at this from the point of view of a shepherd in Scotland, they're probably a bit too much for sheep, a bit too powerful, a bit too headstrong. So I'm putting them at number 6 because of that. If we were to look at this from a cattle herding point of view, then they would be much closer to the top of this list. And at number 5 is another dog that I really love. So this is the rough and smooth Collies. Now, there is something to be said for these two dogs may actually be different breeds, and I would agree with that, but it's too much to go into in this video. But there is something to be said. Both the rough and smooth Collies do tend to have different characteristics, even though they look very similar, just with different lengths of coat. However, I'm going to put them both at number 5. They are really good herding dogs. You will get a lot of them still working here in Scotland today. Smooth Collies especially were used heavily in Scotland before they sort of take over the Border Collie. Since the takeover of the Border Collie, they've sort of become a little redundant, but there is a core group of people who still absolutely love these dogs, and they do have really good working instincts. You will be able to find smooth and rough Collies fairly easily with working lineage here in Scotland. And aside from that, they maybe aren't as good an all-round dog as some other dogs further up on this list. Number 4, the New Zealand Huntaway. Brilliant dog. These are a dog which have made it worldwide. So you will find these in Scotland. You will find very few in pet homes. You will find a lot of these still very much working breed dogs. They have not only made a huge impact in their own country, but they've made a huge impact worldwide. They are super good when it comes to from a sheep herding point of view. The only sort of caveat to that is these are driving dogs, so unlike a lot of other dogs on this list, they use their bark, their voice to drive sheep forward, whereas a lot of the other dogs on this list use what we call eye, which is that intense stare. And because of that, they maybe aren't as good an all-round dog. They're definitely more geared towards driving sheep forward rather than steering, or what we would call heading, which is steering the herd. So if you think of it a bit like driving, it's like the wheels in the car or the engine of the car that keeps it going forward, whereas heading or a herding dog is the steering of the car, which actually controls the direction of the herd. I know. So New Zealand Huntaway from a driving perspective is probably one of the best driving dogs that you could possibly have, and a lot of farms will have one Huntaway and then a couple of Collies here in Scotland, because they just are brilliant for driving, especially out on big hill sort of land and hill farms. We get to number 3, and I'm going to be honest, it was a real tough pick between 2 and 3 here, because if I went with personal preference, I would actually have these switched around, but I'm looking at this as a point of actual factualness, and for that reason I'm putting the bearded Collie in the 3rd spot. The bearded Collie is actually one of my favourite dogs. I absolutely love them. I love the way they look. Amazing working dogs. You are probably thinking right now, well, what did you say about the old English sheepdog? But here's the thing. Yes, bearded Collies have heavily been used in the show trade in recent years. However, you will still find a lot of working bearded Collies here in Scotland. You will pretty easily pick up a pup out of working lines. And it's almost 2 different breeds now. So you have the show breed and the working breed, and they've almost split apart from each other into 2 totally different breeds. But as a working dog, the bearded Collie has amazing instincts. They are a brilliant all-round dog, and they are super intelligent, super trainable, super high energy, maybe just not quite reaching the same levels of intelligence as the Border Collie. Okay guys, now into the number 2 spot, and it is the Australian Kelpie. This is another dog which has made a sort of global hit on the world when it comes to sheepdogs. They've not only made it in their own country, but they've made it in pretty much every country where sheep are herded. They are second to only the Border Collie. They use much of the same instincts of the Border Collie. They are one of the only other dogs which use eye as heavily as the Border Collie. They have amazing variations in their coats, and they're a very good all-round working sheepdog. The only thing that I would say is maybe they aren't quite as acclimatized to the Scottish climate than the Border Collie. So number one on this list is the Border Collie, because the Border Collie is the most intelligent dog in the world. It is the best all-round sheepdog. They can drive sheep, they can pen sheep, they can herd an open field. They are the ultimate herding dog, in my opinion. And they also just have some of the best personalities of any dog out there. I think they're just so intelligent. They are so good. They have such big and expressive personalities, but as well as that, they are just almost unbeatable when it comes to the herding world. In my opinion, nothing beats a Border Collie. Hey guys, that'll do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And that'll do it from me and Kate.